Hi everybody, my name is Chris, I'm also known as Lunatic Design, and I'm going to be doing some drawing for y'all today. It's a little early stream, but normally I stream at around 4 o'clock Eastern Time, but I'm having a bout with maintenance insomnia, so my sleeping schedule has gone at the moment. What that basically means is I sleep 3 or 4 hours at a time, and then I'm up for about 8 hours, and then I need to sleep again. And I work at night, so my sleeping schedule gets kind of weird anyway. So since my stream time is in the middle of when I would need to get sleep to have sufficient sleep in order to be able to work safely, I've decided to stream a little early today. I'm going to be doing some cyberpunk themed maps. I happen to really love this kind of setting. I'm revamping how I do some of my maps. As you can see, I've changed some of my sketching details, and up in here, I've changed how I'm going to be laying out the 2.5D maps. But that being said, let's go ahead and start talking about the things I'm going to use. And I have all of the wrong pins pulled out in front of me. So I'm going to have to shift everything for a moment to get to my drawer. Oh, yep. All of the wrong pins. And hopefully that's, not too bad. But I want to talk about what you see in front of you. What you see in front of you is a blue sketch. And I use blue. I get asked this every time. I use blue because when I run it through my scanner will automatically drop off blue color. And what that means is I don't have to go back through here with an eraser in order to take out my pencil lines. This is an erasable blue, and I use a soft blue, usually for a sketch, and I've got an example here that I'm going to show you in a second. And then I use just a regular blue here to darken things up to make it a little easier for the camera to pick it up and make it easier on my eyes to see. You can't necessarily see as well all of the scribble lines in here where I've sort of sketched in the details of what I'm doing. And I use that with just a pair of different automatic pencils. These are 0.7 leads. And yeah, that's what I do. So this is an example of one that's been finished and darkened up for the camera. Down here, you can see one that I've started, and it's really light, really hard to see, and believe it or not, it's actually hard for me to see too. But I've started doing some details in here on this one. This is the last of the 3 maps that I've done for this. I'm going to do 2 more additional maps. I don't think I'm going to do any sketching today. I think today I'm just going to do some inking. Alright. I say that, of course I'm going to end up doing some sketching. So, I might do some inking today. I might do some sketching. What the heck. I might pull out and do another one, talk about layouts. So, let's set those aside, and let's grab my my handy dandy folder. I keep most of my maps inside a folder, and just so I have an easy way of getting to paper. There we go. Fresh blank piece of paper for us to play around with. Now I'm going to start off with making sure everything is kind of squared up for the camera. Make sure I bump the camera 4 or 5 times, because that's how I do. And because I are professional, I'm going to go ahead and silence my phone, put it on vibrate. Alright. So, let's come in here and... So I've got... Let's look at what I've got and look what I'm going to do next. Alright, so this is sort of an open area, sort of a central meeting place, and I've got a bit of a an office building in here, and a bit of an alleyway. What I don't have is I don't have an all internal location yet. So that might be a good idea to sketch up next. So we're going to start out with the soft blue and kind of figure out where things go. Since I don't want to do streets in this is all going to be internal. Needs to be an entrance and an exit. Well, I think I'm going to have them enter from... I usually have people enter from the top right, exit from the bottom, exit to the bottom, top left, exit from the bottom right. And then I have most of my action focused here in the center. Now, these aren't dungeon maps. I don't... this is not a square. That's a half of a square. This is a whole square. So this is 5 by 5. So I draw it a different scale anyway, because that gets closer in maps, and I do that for several reasons. One is one of my players has vision issues. So when I have everything pulled back where I can see what's going on the whole map, she can't see anything. When I have things pushed in tight enough, there's, the action might all be focused in here, but there's a bad guy down in here and a bad guy down in here, and my players don't know about it because they can't see it. So I have to whiplash the camera around when I have these maps on a virtual tabletop. And I dislike doing that. So I decided, why not just push in? So these maps come out to being 22 by 17 grid spaces. When I put them into a VTT, I scale them out at 1,650 pixels by 1,275 pixels. So that's how I do. I am thinking about changing my scale down, even tightening my scale up even more, but if I do that, what I'll probably end up doing is drawing two maps and sandwiching them like so. So there's a couple different options that I'm thinking about, because drawing things on a larger scale is a little easier, and I can get detail, which I enjoy doing. All right. So what is going to happen in here? What's the big kind of thing? Well, it's cyberpunk, so corporate office, maybe maybe like a vault. So let's say we'll use that as a center point. Let's see. Put like a bit of a vault in here. How big is this going to be? I want this to take up most of this map. And the vault's going to be most of it. So, just come in here and just kind of get a general sketch of where things are going to be. I'm not really following grid lines. I'm just creating a general kind of indicator. Alright, so if this is going to be a vault, let's make a central corridor. It's going to lead to it. And I want to turn this into kind of like a fatal funnel. Now this is a corporate kind of thing. And I want to give some advantages to the NPCs on how they're going to handle that. So I've got, this is kind of where the ambush happens, and it looks a little odd to me, but that's just the lighting. That's because that lighting's a little dark. I'll have, let's say, a security office down in here, like barracks and stuff like that. Up here, I don't know. I don't want this to be entirely symmetrical. So I'm going to have something in here. I don't know. Maybe a computer server room. Like this is like a security systems room. And since they, no, I don't want to put anything like that near there. Oh, yeah, maybe like something like a small like jail area where they would keep like very important, like corporate prisoners, things like that nearby. Have this open up into like a more foyer-esque kind of thing, so that my characters have some issues to deal with that. All right. And this is just kind of I know you can't even see this, but the lines are there. They're very faint. I'm going to go back and I'm going to darken them up a little bit as I go. I'm going to try to avoid using this pencil as much as possible so y'all can see what I'm doing. But this is kind of how I lay out maps. Alright, so we're going to come in here and let's think about this. Alright. So, I kind of like my vault being very large. So, let's get some indicators of level. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Measure twice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright. I'm going to push it one wider. And I could move this whole thing down a space if it's that important, but then I'm gonna get very deep into coming into that. So I'm just gonna darken this line just a little bit, and I don't want it to be completely straight in the back. I'm gonna cut this corner off just because I like those shapes. If you ever watched Battlestar Galactica, they talk about how they, for the pilot, they wanted to make their paper look more sci-fi, so they cut the corners off of it. And then they liked it so much that they had to keep doing it. And I don't want to expand anything in there, but let's be like a staircase there. Kind of give like a bit of a ring around the rosy here. Just create some interesting shapes. It's going to be sort of an elevated walkway. Think of it like an observation path. And for stairs, I draw a line in between each grid object. Then I make a little mark here in the middle. And you don't have to. If you can eyeball straight lines better than I can, then absolutely do it that way. Whichever way is easiest for you. And I like to... Ooh, getting bold. And, so there we go. There's a staircase. There's an elevated area. I want to put a border on it because this is not a Star Wars map. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to grab halfway through the middle of the cell. And then just kind of connect these because that's not always divided up evenly. Now, if this is a Star Wars map, there is no safety railing. And for me, that's kind of a conscious choice because you don't really see any safety railings in the Star Wars universe. And I know that, it does change some things here and there. And that would actually be, out just a little further if it was, the true center of it, but I'm not really all that worried about it. This is just a sketch in place. So now I've got this kind of like overhead area that'll give some nice bit of an elevated position. I want more elevation, more layers. I want to put another piece out in here, maybe overlooking, I guess, whatever like server vault this is. Come out just a hair more. Let's go one on each side. Cut the corners off because, you know, sci-fi. And here. And there we go. Might come in just a little wider than that. And I'm not certain where I want to bring. Oh, let's just let's put a staircase on either side. Now I haven't done inset staircases on any of these maps yet, so I'm not going to do it on this one. And there are better ways of doing staircases than the ones that I use. But I use this kind of staircase deliberately because I never have to guess where it's going. It always points down. And for me, that's kind of important. That's one of the important things of using battle maps and stuff like that. Is it's a tool. Specifically for me, it's a tool that reduces the amount of labor required by the GM at the table. It's a labor saver. It's a mind saver in many ways. I'm gonna put something up in here that's kind of like a little stuck in piece. Yeah, let's come out here and make a shape. Who knows? Maybe this is like some sort of like ultimate like node. I'm just gonna throw some geometric shapes here against the wall, and we'll see what they look like. Oh, I like that. I'm just gonna come in here and we're gonna put like a little screen. Right there. Some wires coming off the side. Never underestimate the power of wires. Maybe this one's a little long. No, I don't want to become famous. Thank you for spamming my chat. And I'm just gonna ban you. I'm getting tired of reporting all of these. I wonder if other content creators have to. Yeah, they do. They probably have to put up with more than me. But yeah. I forgot what I was saying. But yeah, so we just include little things here and there, and I don't think I actually want to have a screen there. This is something else entirely. Maybe not. We'll have to see. All right. Now the big thing in here is kind of this. So this is like a data server vault of some sort. And there we go. Kind of right in there. the new screens that I'm doing is all it is the same screen that I used to do. It's just now I have, you know, one additional little piece to it to kind of give it a bit of a kind of a flare. Alright. And this is very light. This is really hard to see, but I'm just gonna sketch some things in here and there. And I'm starting to get a little detailed with it, so I should probably stop doing this, because this is probably going to kill everybody's eyes aside from mine. So, this is generally kind of how I lay things out. I start figuring out shapes. I'm going to start figuring out what goes in here, how this room ends, where the door is, which is, you know, right about here. And, you know, how all of that progresses. But that's kind of like a snapshot of, you know, how I lay things out and how I get maps going. But I'm going to set this one aside and save everybody's eyeballs for now. And I'm going to come in here and let's grab one that I think I'm done with the sketch for. And when I say done with the sketch, I mean done with the sketch at this point. You know, it's always very likely that I will go back and start messing around with it. And that's because I don't want to spend too much time here. I still have to, you know, work tonight, and I have all kinds of things going on. But, my folder's being complicated with putting things back away. There we go. And as always, if you end up watching, and I have no idea if anybody's actually watching, because OBS doesn't tell me that. Then if you have any questions, you know, feel free to pop it into the chat. You can always, if you have questions, you can always message me, send me direct messages on Twitter, on Instagram, any of those places. And I should probably be responsible with that, and go ahead and update those links up here in the chat. All right. All right. If you like what you see here, you can always find me on patreon.com/lunaticdesign. I also have a store on DriveThruRPG. And I'm on Instagram and Twitter as well. On Instagram and Twitter, it is _lunaticdesign. Trying to maintain more consistent branding with the things that I do. But as I come in here and I start doing ink, I want to talk about the tools that I use for inking. I'm by no means an authority on this, but for the most part of this map, you're going to see me use Tombow brush pens. This is a soft, which is black. This is the firm, which is a dark blue, which probably looks black to y'all. The soft is a little softer, a little harder to control. It gets a little thicker, darker lines. And I use this for things that I want to be very bold, things that are close to the camera, and things that I kind of want to highlight. It's also easier. It's also easy to get finer with this one. So this one has the greater variety of mechanical uses. This is the firmer pen. It's still a brush pen, but it is more consistent. It has a wider, a narrower band of you know, basically a narrower band of line thicknesses. I have here, which I might not do a whole lot in this map, as I have my old and busteds. These are pins that I'm using up. The ink's becoming less consistent, and you'll see me bring these out for doing a lot of detail work, especially when I start getting into doing like rubble and dirt and stuff like that, because I like the broken line appearance. On the other hand, I have some Sakura Pigma Micron pens. I'll probably use the 03 for doing cross-hatching along borders and stuff like that because I have boxes of these that I don't use. Actually, I think this is my only 03 that I have that's still newish. So I'm going to use this for doing cross-hatching, and for doing like finer details, I use a 02. You can use a 01, but the way I scan and process the images, a 01 kind of vanishes periodically, and I don't like that as much. So, the process of doing this, the first thing I want to do is I want to think about what blocks light. And that's one of the first things that I want to think about. The second thing I want to think about is my brain just went for a moment. What creates changes in levels? All right. So anything that's going to block light, like for instance, here we have on these posts with the screens, these are going to block light. You know, if somebody's standing behind them, they're going to create essentially cover. So I will come in here, and I've never done a wall with the screen before in it, so this is going to be interesting. And I'm a little hesitant at the moment, but we'll see how things go. Let's get bold. It's just ink. Alright, that's not too bad. I kind of squared it up a little bit, but that's okay. And all of these posts here, these are also light blockers. And I use virtual tabletops. Specifically, I use Roll20. No, they're not a sponsor. If they want to sponsor me, woohoo, that would be awesome. But they're not a sponsor. And I use dynamic lighting. So when I'm creating a map, I like to think about where the ray tracing is going to happen, where I'm going to get little light rays coming through. And you'll notice that I'm slowing down as I'm coming into things. And while this is not a light blocking layer, this is an elevation change layer. So changes in elevation also get the bolder, broader lines. Alright. For instance, this is also going to have... So I'm going to not cut out that with my line. I'm going to try it, do a little slightly something different here. And I'm just going to leave that for my finer pen, which is how I'm going to draw in my my screens and stuff. So here's my light blocking layer here. And I do have to pause what I'm doing periodically and look and make sure that, you know, you all can see what it is that's happening and what I'm doing. And when it comes to inking, the biggest piece of advice I have for anybody is slow down. There's no rush. Now, the thickness of my line is going to be determined by a couple things. One is how hard am I pressing, and number two is the angle that the pen is at that I'm using. So the flatter I have it laid down, the tighter it is, the wider it's going to be. The more elevated I have it, the finer it's going to be. I generally pick about the same angle for most parts, but that. So this little wall here, this is not a light blocking layer, so I'm not gonna bold in both sides of it, but it is an elevation change layer. So I'm going to have a dark outer edge and a slightly lighter inner edge. And there's a couple reasons to do that. Number one is because it's a little bolder. It will stand up as being a little bit more noticeable to the players. And this thicker edge means when I go back and color, it's easier to distinguish between the top and bottom. All right, now for here, just the top. All right, just the top. All right. Other things that are light blocking layers, doors. I do a lot of doors. I didn't do a lot of doors in the dungeon map pack that I did recently. Most of those, well, there were a lot of doors, but they weren't standing up like this. Most of them were kicked in. My previous map pack was a dungeon that's, what does a dungeon look like after a party's been through it? And there we go. And this is a stand-up kind of thing. Come in here, just kind of bold with that. All right. And down here, you've noticed I've drawn through the hole in my paper, and that's just the price of doing business with using cheap graph paper. And I use the cheapest graph paper I can find. Eventually, I'm going to probably upgrade. I think when I purchase new graph paper, I will use upgraded stuff. And top stair. And previously, making maps and inking them would give me such anxiety to ink my maps. It would stress me out a lot. Because there's this pressure and need to make sure that things look right when you do them. Oh. And not make mistakes like that. That's fine. I just wanted to have an overhang here. And I don't think that's the overhang I had planned for that one, but that's okay. It's a little jumbled in here, so this might be a little hard to do in a couple places, but that's okay. Let's think about where things are gonna go. Oh, I'm starting to get broken lines, so. You know what that means? This is turning into an old and busted. I'll change that one out after this map, I think. I'll just go back through and redarken it every now and then. Alright. I'm trying to see where things are. And just like with the wall there, I'm going to do just the outer edge of this. And I don't think I actually need to include that. I think, yeah, I want to do it just because. Alright, so there's that edge. I'm gonna come through, grab little bits here and there. Alright, and let's do this one. I'm gonna do this one in the this pen here, because it's gonna give me a bolder line. And if I go thin on this one, it's just gonna vanish. Into the line of the wall. I'm gonna do that with this. I'm just gonna come in and grab both sides of this one. Oh, I want to make this look more consistent, so I'm going to pull down. Let me come in. I'm kind of liking how that stands out. I might do the back edge of the rest of these too like that. All right. And I kind of like that. Let's do the back edge of these too. Come here and just make this a little darker. And yep, I kind of like that. I'm gonna do the same thing, you know, over here on this side with this this walkway. And I didn't do the stairs yet. That's okay. We just work on it a little piece at a time. All right. then this gives me some confines to base this in. And I want to think about things that are sitting higher up than others, like, you know, this umbrella. You know, this sort of corrugated roof. You know, things that you want to stand out here and there, like the back of this bench. And, you know, as long as you're thinking about what you're doing with these, generally go pretty well. One of the downsides of drawing maps the way that I do is that it's sometimes easy to forget to go and do these details, especially once you start getting into using the thin pen. And sometimes what happens is I've completely forgotten to do something. It's much more frequent when it's something like well, it's like cross-hatching and stuff like that. And I kind of want to darken, you know, have this be nice and dark coming through. And cheap trick is you just do all the similar lines all at once. So come through and I'll grab all of the verticals in this shape, and then turn it. All of the verticals coming back the other way. Especially if you want something to look like nice and crisp. At least for me, I draw much smoother pulling down towards myself than I do like pushing away or moving any other direction. Like even going back towards my hand, I'm not nearly as accurate with. And you figure these things out by, you know, you grab a pen and start drawing. You know, anybody can do these maps. And that's okay. Alright. So, little bits of progress here and there. Something else that's going to stand out. I like this car. Although, it's a little small for scale. It's a little accurate for scale for everything else. But it's a little small for scaling when it comes to like player tokens and stuff like that. But I'm gonna do it this way anyway, and I'm gonna grab this kind of internal piece here, and this is gonna be what I do nice and bold and dark. I want to extend that out. I want to make that nice and straight there. I kind of like that this is kind of like blockiness. Alright. And when I go back through, I'm going to use a thinner pen to sort of fill in those details and stuff. Let's think about other things that I want to put, you know, dark edges around. Things like barrels. And, you know, boxes. This thing. And of course, you know, things that are higher elevations. anything that needs to be kind of highlighted as far as the way it looks. You know, just grab it with the dark pen and go for it, like boxes. But I'm not going to do the box details, just going to do like the outer edges of things. And while this is not a rule of thumb for everybody, this is kind of like a general kind of like rule of thumb for me. Alright, now let's get into the scary. Let's start doing stuff that I've never done before. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to try to make these screens, this new style of doing like screens and stuff, look good. And it's possible they might look absolutely amazing, or they could look horrible. Any of those things are possible. Especially, when I've got like 4 or 5 screens all put together, like out in here, which is why I wanted to do it this way, so I could like layer these screens on top of each other. I really liked the way that looked in a couple of other maps that I saw. It's not looking bad. At least I don't think it's looking bad. It might be absolutely horrendous. And I can tell my anxiety's playing up because my hands are starting to shake a little bit more. So, get a little bold. And there we go. Take a couple of breaths. in case you're wondering what that noise is, this is me breathing. Which is one of my favorite lines from a movie called Gross Point Blank. This is me breathing. Very very interesting yet very disturbing movie. And when it comes to map making and drawing and things like that, one of the things you need to try to do is give yourself permission to make mistakes. Mistakes are not the end of the world. And it's ink, it's paper, and yeah, the sketch took a bit of time to create, and it would be very frustrating if I had to redo it. But I'm gonna scan this in digitally. So if I make a huge error, then all I'm going to do is make a note of where the error happened on the paper. And I'm going way too fast. And I'm drawing against my strengths. There we go. There's that whole anxiety playing up on me again. Talking when I should be drawing. And I wanna finish the screens along this wall. Yeah, that's a little close. So I'm gonna bring this out just a little bit. Nice and slow. Nice and slow. And I think that I'm getting something that's kind of nice. I could be wrong. I frequently am wrong, but... Oh, I missed a spot, so come there, just press down a little harder. Come here. I have this feeling that even if I get to the point where I'm doing this kind of for a living, I'm going to have this one just cut over a little sooner. There we go. That's horrible. And there we go. There's an example of a mistake. And I just come in here and just write fix. So I'll be able to pick that out once I go back into digital editing. And as I do this, I'm going to start off thin and just push down just a little firmer as I'm coming up, just to give it a little indication of elevation changes. This is me breathing. Another thing I can do is I come back through here and I'm just gonna go back and forth a little bit. Include some more details. Oh, this little handrail. Lights. Come in here and let's do this screen as well. And do our stairs. And we go through and, just work on bits and bobs as you go. And some things you just whip through and just do get bold and try to go a little fast on them. Alright, and I will eventually go back through and finish detailing up that car using the finer pen. Just come through and do little pieces of things here and there. And I'm starting to speed up, so I need to take a breath and slow down. It's one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give pretty much anybody on doing anything. Most of the things that are troublesome for me are almost always fixed by that one real simple idea of take a breath, slow down. And we look at things that are happening. There we go. Just keep going. Pieces here and there. That's a little bit of a mistake there, and that's fine. Just gonna come back and fix it later. Oh, there's a mistake on that one. That's okay. Just make myself a little note to fix that. Have the arms overlapping everywhere else but on that one, and that makes it a little bit inconsistent. I don't like that very much. And then you just keep going. Find a little piece of it and start putting more in place. Now, I had some issues on the last one of these that I did. And so let's go a little slower. And if I go a little slower, of course, I mean do the last one really fast. That way it's really messed up. Yep, that'll be fine though. And a couple other things you kind of want to think about as you're doing this is think about what other things like stand out as far as details. Like I know I'm going to put some heavy lines in there, but as I'm going to do that, also want to have some stuff to break up that line. You don't have to break up those lines. You can, just let them hang out there and do stuff, but, I like when, lines aren't, continuous. Just throw some other shapes in here. And now that I've got some of my debris figured out, let's go ahead and line this in. And I like to get one decent continuous line to indicate water. The other portion of this is going to be using the thinner pins. But things like some details on the floor, like these are gonna get, these dark lines in, so they stand out. Once everything gets cross-hatched and shaded. And an important thing is, don't let these lines go like forever without breaking them up. Throw some stuff, some smudge on them. And you don't want to, put stuff on every single one of them, but you want to have some of these broken lines. And so by, breaking up these lines and stuff like that, it's starting to add, little details. So I want to throw some rubble in here. In there, yep. Now with grates and stuff like that, like I've got two different lines. One of them's like sort of like an edge line, and I think I'm gonna do the interior line on these, and make this one the dark one. Specifically on this one, I've got a couple different kinds of lines going on in here. And I'm just going to come in and do like that. Maybe people just tossing their trash off the edge of this walkway as they're leaving. Horrible people. And boom, there we go. Little pieces here and there, and you start, as you keep going, you start filling in more and more details. And a kind of a general rule of thumb that I like to use is I use this pen, this firm pen, pretty much up until the map is finished, I guess is a good way of putting it. And what I mean by that is when I put this down, I want to have a usable map so that I don't have to have those additional details that I like to put in. But by the time I come off of my firm pen, I want to have all of the details in place and decent dark lines. And the reason for that is if I don't, then my map starts looking very muddled. Let's see if I can do this one. I don't like how I did any of the other ones yet. Maybe doing this four-way screen thing's a really bad idea. Take a break from making that screen and put in this little detail back in here. And there we go. There we go. Gotta make a mistake on some of them. There's no mistakes or happy little accidents. Well, I mess up all of the time. And the important thing is, mistakes are fine. It is absolutely okay to make mistakes. Mistakes happen. What you do with those mistakes, that to me is more important. And that was a mistake there too. Put a little dot there. Yeah, I kind of like that. Getting a little ambitious with some of these. So, to go back to what I was explaining about thick pen, thin pen, stuff like that, is if you look at these with the blue lines, you can tell that this is a bench, even without that little slatted detail. When you look at this, that could be a box, which means that there's details missing that need to be included. So now that's a grate. And so that detail's included. And, well, that's a great. And by doing it like that, it means that any cross-hatching or shading I do over that is going to be thinner than the thing, which gives it the detail it needs to be easily read. Because, you know, there's rubble in there. I'm going to crosshatch on top of that. It's just going to happen. By making sure that the details that I have in place are the ones that I need to have in place. It means that when I come back through here and I start adding in like floor textures and stuff like that, that the details that I have that I need are still going to be visible and clear because they're darker and thicker. If that makes any sense. But I'm, you know, almost at that point where I can set this pen aside and go into my details. I did the edges of my grid, my things up there, so I'm going to do the edges of these as well. Sort of instant floor texture. And you don't want to break up all of those lines with it, but you want to throw some stuff, you know. And sometimes you want to tease it breaking up a line, and then not actually do it. And what you'll notice is, you notice a lot of these little pieces of rubble that I have down here, they're all about the same size. Part of that reason is because I draw them very quickly when I'm sketching, because they're just an indicator that I'm going to put rubble someplace. And having that indicator reminds me to not forget it. Because, you know, if you've ever seen me draw a map before, I like rubble a lot. Let me just come through in little pieces as we go. And if you wanted to, you could throw some rubble on the stairs. I'm not going to, though. I kind of like that sort of clean stair look that I've got. I'm going to throw some rubble up in here. Throw some on this corner. Just people are getting messy in here. You know, let me just do. And one of my kind of rules when it comes to rubble, my rubble rule is that rubble breeds. Rubble begets rubble. That's one of the things that I've noticed just in general, is that when something's already messy, it's easier for people to justify making more of a mess. Oh, that's why that looks like there was an extension there. That's from the floor. So, you know, if this area up here is messy, then it's going to be much messier. And, you know, when we think about putting rubble on something, you know, don't just put like a piece of rubble, put like 4 or 5 pieces of rubble. Or 3. I generally try to stick with, you know, general kind of rule of 3. But, you know, one of the important things to bear in mind is, you know, break your own rules. Sometimes. So some rules are meant as more guidelines than actual rules. There we go. And just, you know, think about where this kind of stuff is going to set. And, you know, you just go and mess around with some things. But if you look at what I have right now, what I have is a map that's it's playable. Like you can tell what these things are and that are in place. That they're, you know, shapes and stuff like that. I've even got some floor texture up here. I got some floor texture down here. Not very much, but I'm going to be adding more as I figure out what I want to have texturing out this floor. You got some indication of rubble that indicates that this is kind of a dirty area. And all kinds of stuff. So at this point, the map is done. It really is. Like, I don't have to come back in here and do any of this stuff. And that's one of the reasons why you see me and I come in here and I put my name in. The other reason for that is I forget. And so but because my map is done, I go ahead and sign it. And what comes next is detail. Really. So, you know, this pin I'm good with that pin. And I can come in here and one of the first details I'm going to do is I'm going to crosshatch out my light blocking layers. Which I'm not certain is going to work with the way I've kind of intruded upon the kind of wall, I guess, integrity that I have. But we're going to find out here real quick, though, if it works. And it's kind of working. I'm going to see it more once I come up there, up into the top portion of this. And, you know, come in here and, you know, this is, to me, this is a detail. This is kind of like an essential detail for the style of maps that I like. But it's a detail. I could skip this process, and I used to do it. Used to skip it fairly frequently. But my reasoning for that was crosshatching used to take me so much time and give me such a headache that I just stopped doing it. And I didn't have any kind of like epiphany with it or anything like that. I didn't like message somebody who really knows crosshatching. I just was sitting down and just thinking about it for a little while, and what I determined myself was that if crosshatching was taking too much time, then I was doing the crosshatching wrong. And this is the part that I'm not certain about. I kind of want to crosshatch this, and I kind of don't. I think I might just not do this one. I don't know. That I'm gonna have to think about. But, you know, little things like that, filling in details, like, you know, specifically like here in the car. So, you know, we'll come in here and I'll fill in some details here. And just throw in, you know, little details here and there. You know, let's put in the doors. And none of that really, you know, needed the detail of that, but, you know, having that detail there, you know, contributes to it. And oh, that's why my details are coming in a little thicker than I anticipated. I'm on a 0.3. Need to be on a 0.2 for doing this. That's okay. I'll finish this up, because otherwise it might look a little weird. And the reason I'm creating this line separation is I kind of want to have like that visual separation in here. And my my crosswalk, and my hey, you need to stop the car here look. And from here on, I'll go back to the 0.2 and start filling in more details. But there's, you know, all kinds of fun things that you can do with this. Oh, there's a spot back in here, and let's try it, because this is kind of the safe spot. This is like an overhanging area. And what I might do is have a kind of a rule of thumb when it comes to the cross hatching, is that as long as it's not doesn't have as long as it's an enclosed area, then it'll be fine. And I'll go back and fix that here in a little once I put it into Krita. And so, this would get cross-hatched, but this here wouldn't, because this is technically still open because there's character interaction tokens there. That's actually just a wall, and this is kind of something else. But I don't know if I need to do something to indicate, do anything as far as like texture indication there. I don't know. I might crosshatch on this, but I haven't figured that out yet. Little things to play around with and see. Maybe I need to put like panels and stuff and do different kinds of texturing in there. I don't know. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call it here. With OBS, I have no idea if anybody's watching this live or not. I only have one fan, really, so far on Twitch, and that's okay. Well, I have one fan that comes in and joins me on the stream. There's several people who watch the VODs and stuff like that, and they frequently watch them different times than obviously than when I broadcast them and stuff like that. But I have some friends who fall asleep listening to me, and I think that's wonderful. I like to and I know I said I was going to be done, but come in, just add some more details. Oh, but hopefully you've enjoyed watching. Maybe I was soothing, maybe I was annoying, but if you like what you see, feel free to give me a follow. If you have any questions, come out sometime and join the chat, ask questions. Makes these streams go by a little nicer. If you want to see this map when it's finished, you either can pick it up on Drive-Thru RPG when I've finished it and published it as a map pack. You can probably find it by following me on Twitter at _lunaticdesign, or on Instagram at _lunaticdesign. Either of those will work, and they'll both take you to the same place. And you'll be able to get the maps. Most of them, I even if I sell them and stuff like that, I still have them out there for free. So you can pick up the maps for free, for pay what you want. If you have any questions, feel free to message me. If you want to say, hey, how do you do this? How should I draw this? Or any other like tabletop questions. You can also find me on Reddit. I post most of these maps up there as well when I finish them. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining me. Have fun, be safe, and happy gaming.